Hello there. I'm Dr. John Roland. I am establishing my new practice with a new name called Evolution Medicine. I am speaking to you from Living Well, Dallas, where I've had the luxury and pleasure to work with all of the associates of Living Well, Dallas. Betty Murray, Jenny Bear, and all of the doctors and specialists here, we have all learned and grown so much over the last 3 years. I am moving to Douglas Plaza in the Prestonwood area. The office will open December 1st. I practice functional medicine and stem cell medicine. And some of you may know very little about either. And this video will help to educate you. I hope to teach you something, and I hope to encourage you then to look further into your health and hopefully to come and visit me so that I can talk to you about your health. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Evolution Medicine. Thank you for coming. So as I mentioned, I practice both functional medicine and stem cell medicine. And I use it, although they can be used for all kinds of things, including just general health and anti-aging, but I specialize my interest in autoimmune disease of all kinds. It can start as easily as having thyroid conditions like hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's disease, or Graves' disease. There are two versions, frankly, even though one is low thyroid and one is high thyroid. They really have their origins in autoantibodies that attack the thyroid. It can present as lupus, which can present in so many different ways. It can present as rheumatoid arthritis. Diabetes mellitus is an autoimmune disease. There are many forms of dementia that are autoimmune. The fact is we're running into more and more types of autoimmune disease, and standard medicines have difficulty in reversing the course. But I can tell you that with functional medicine and stem cell medicine, regenerative medicines, that we are looking behind the veil into the true causes and using unique ways of actually reversing that. And now there are landmark studies showing the use of functional medicine to help reverse some of those. And we'll talk a little bit about that. My history is, frankly, as a family practice doctor. I transitioned to the emergency room where I've spent over 25 years. Almost by accident, I took my first stem cell medicine course in 2012, looking for some interesting things to learn. And what I learned then was that stem cell medicine can be used for arthritis, and we'll talk some about that, but it can also be used for so many other diseases. And that led me then to the undercurrent reasoning why we get sick, why we are developing autoimmune disease. And it may be of interest to you. In our modern lives, ever exposed to more processed foods and pollution and insecticides and pesticides and exposures that we have, that we are having more and more autoimmune disease. And in fact, the last conference that I went to, they told us to even be prepared for people that have autoimmune disease, but we don't have names for it yet. Things like chronic fatigue are also autoimmune, and we're recognizing that earlier and earlier. So functional medicine is really the art of asking why you're sick, how you got sick. So let's think about this for a moment. Rheumatoid arthritis tends to occur in the middle ages, 30s and 40s. It is the development of autoantibodies, antibodies that are these robots that go out and supposed to detect viruses and bacteria. Somehow the message gets sent for these antibodies to attack your own body's antibodies, and in fact, attack all of the synovial joints in your body. So every major joint in your body becomes arthritic, and literally the bone is being destroyed. So the question of why it is that we get sick has to do with all of the factors that affect and disease the immune system. And somehow the immune system gets triggered, and then you develop these autoantibodies. Standard medicine says that we can't reverse that. But the fact is that we can. Many rheumatoid arthritis is associated with chemicals that we come in contact with that irritate the immune system. Smoking being one of them. Poor nutrition is another. The poor management of stress is another. Poor sleep is another. Poor nutrition is another. And if we start to address those, rheumatoid arthritis can resolve and improve. Regenerative medicine is a way of using your own body's tissues to help you heal. So let me describe that and its use in rheumatoid arthritis. We have stem cells everywhere in our body. And if we mobilize those stem cells, we can inject those into an arthritic knee. The first thing that those cells do is that they start communicating with the immune system to cool the immune system so that the immune system isn't any longer attacking the joint. And then it starts signaling, those stem cells start signaling the repair of the joint. Stem cells are the only treatment known to this date to actually increase the cartilage depth, to help recover the loss of cartilage. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So I've mentioned stem cell. I haven't even told you what stem cells are. We'll get to that in a moment. As I mentioned, there are over 100 types of autoimmune diseases, and some of them are listed here. And they attack almost every body part. Multiple sclerosis and Guillain-Barré attack the brain. You have celiac disease and Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis that attack the intestines. You have peripheral neuropathy and diabetic neuropathy that affect the sensory nerves of the feet and the hands. You have fibromyalgia and Wagner's granulomatosis that attack the lungs. Psoriasis, surprisingly, is something that responds particularly well with stem cell therapy. And those conditions of eczema and scleroderma sometimes also can be associated with food sensitivities and food allergies. I mentioned rheumatoid arthritis, polymyalgia rheumatica. I've mentioned fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. All of these are also autoimmune. So here I've mentioned this and the possible treatments. The fact is that improper diet, a concept called leaky gut, which if you eat the wrong foods, you get inflammation of the gut, causes problems. You have deficiencies in vitamins that can make your body sick. You have stress and poor management of stress. We have exposures to insecticides and pesticides and pollution. We have poor sleep, poor interpersonal relationships, and if you're not happy with your friend or your spouse and you're having trouble and you're not resolving that, you can't sleep well, your body doesn't recover. We have exposures to heavy metals, both in underarm sprays like aluminum, which ends up causing dementia. We have mercury fillings sometimes, which can enter our blood system and cause us to be mercury toxic. We have adrenal fatigue. The fact is, what ends up happening is that all of these insults come down to cellular mechanics, and they make the body and they make the cell sick. Sooner or later, they will send signals on the surface of the cells and other ways that the body is sick. Sooner or later, based on your genetics and the actual exposures that you've had, you will end up breaking out in a pattern of disease, like lupus, celiac, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, all of the diseases that I talked about. There is a direct link. Now, it isn't that everybody that smokes is going to have rheumatoid arthritis, but it is true that many people that have rheumatoid arthritis have smoking as a risk factor, but that's not the only risk factor. So I can treat you with stem cells, but the more complete picture, as I hope you're starting to understand, is this larger picture of treating the whole body. Nutrition, everything up to how we live our lives and have healthy lifestyles. So I mentioned that we are now starting to have proof that this medicine of tomorrow truly helps. Dr. Dale Bradison from the University of UCLA and Terry Walls from the University of Iowa have treated two conditions previously thought irreversible. Dale Bradison has treated dementia with the principles that I've just talked about and is reversing the course in almost all of those patients that he treats. Terry Walls herself has MS and was in a wheelchair and couldn't see patients. She was relegated to reviewing charts. That was the only thing that she could do. She found functional medicine and slowly started getting better. I last saw her speak in May of this year. She walked on stage without crutches. She treats MS. She reverses the course of MS. She won Doctor of the Year for the Institute of Functional Medicine this year. Bravo, Terry Walls. Bravo, Dale Bradison. And hence goes the future of functional medicine. So let's dig in a little bit deeper to stem cell medicine. Stem cells are multipotential cells. They are cells in your body with all of the genetic makeup to turn into a wide variety of tissues depending on what is needed. That was the way that we thought these stem cells worked, is that they are neutral cells, if you want to think about it, waiting for illness and disease to occur, and then they get triggered forth, and if you need muscles, they build muscle. If you need skin tissue, they build skin, whatever tissue that you need. So they have this ability. Stem cell therapy is being able to mobilize those treatments, those cells, and place them in the opportunity to help rebuild you. Like I said, we can take stem cells and inject it into joints, and it helps to rebuild the joint. Does that make sense? I hope it does. They're much more plastic than that, though. They're much more flexible than that. We have stem cells everywhere in your body. There are stem cells in your blood, and there are techniques of getting them from your blood. It requires a process kind of like dialysis, where we do cell separating and get these few stem cells that are in your blood and concentrate them. We can get them from bone marrow, and that historically was the way that we initially used to do all stem cell treatments. We started this in the 70s, where we drill down into the bone marrow and suck back the marrow itself, which is loaded with stem cells. It might surprise you to know that the most concentrated area of stem cells is in adipose tissue. I have done all forms of it except for the blood. We can do bone marrow extraction and get stem cells. We have done procedures where we do an abbreviated liposuction, where we actually take some fat cells and we separate out the stem cells and we use them clinically. But it even is more easy than that. It doesn't stop there. These cells have the most history being able to treat cartilage problems, muscle problems, Even things with neural connections, so peripheral neuropathy has been helped with this. As I mentioned, we have had lots of success treating arthritis. And so we certainly treat a lot of arthritis. So I want to mention before I go on that we use your own body's tissues with stem cells to help with this. But the fact is, there are other stem cell treatments out there. We can use stem cells from umbilical cord blood. We can use stem cells from Wharton's jelly. We can use stem cells from placenta itself. And all of these products are out there and available. And believe it or not, they are done from healthy women that have had pregnancies and have donated their placenta for these treatments. And the placenta is processed and we can use those stem cells. And believe it or not, we can inject those stem cells, which are young and vibrant, and they still have the communicating ability to turn your own body on. We don't believe that these cells actually live inside your body. We think that they're recognized pretty quickly and destroyed, but the triggers and the growth factors carry on. And I use those products frequently, especially in older individuals whose own stem cells may not be as vibrant as young. So we have lots of different options in regard to treatment with stem cells. Let me share with you a study that we did, not me, this is one of my colleagues from Florida that treated over 140 patients with arthritis. In the treatment of arthritis, it usually takes the stem cells about a month to start working. And frankly, most people start feeling better in about a month. They feel even better in 3 months. They feel even better in 12 months. And most of the studies stop after 2 years, and at least the improvement and the well-being has continued for at least 2 years. We do believe at some point that we need to repeat the treatment in certain individuals. In this study by Eric Grana, he studied over 140 patients with knee arthritis. These were mostly stage 2 and 3. These were patients that were on the verge of needing knee replacement, and they were treated with a dose of stem cell into their joint. Their pain score, just how bad the pain was rated from 0 to 10. And these patients rated their pain at 6.3. After a year, they were re-rated and their pain average was 3.0. We did a more scientific measure of just how bad their knee was. And by the Lishom functional test, normal patients would be considered to be 100%. Those that are able to go and play with the kids, play tennis, golf without any difficulties, kneeling down or whatnot. A lot of us don't have that, by the way, right? These patients scored an initial score of 52%. After 1 year of treatment with stem cells, and again, that was one injection, their average functional score was 75. Out of 140, 10 ended up needing knee replacements. That does mean that over 90% did not need joint replacement, and in fact had increase in growth and increased function of their knee, hopefully never needing knee replacement. So stem cell treatment on a very, very simple scale is a great treatment for arthritis in almost any joint. Hips, knees, ankles, shoulders, elbows, wrist. One of the most frequent arthritis joints is the base of the thumb. We can treat that with stem cells. So this is a scientific slide not meant for you to be able to read. This describes some of the many growth factors that are released and are used to communicate with the immune system and other stem cells in your body to turn them on. This is the speech. This is the communicating pattern of stem cells. As a matter of fact, stem cells are thought really to be communicating cells. They are really, if we were to look at the body as being a construction site, they're really the foreman coordinating the repair of the system. The key here is, in regard to the immune system, is that we have an innate immune system which are automatic triggers that occur automatically regardless of whatever the insult is. If you cut your skin, your body's going to clot. That's an automatic, innate response. The rest of the response is called the adaptive immunity. The adaptive immunity takes a little bit of time, but it recognizes things like bacteria and viruses and other specific insults. And then it takes that, formulates a specific response. In many cases, antibodies. In many cases, white cells loaded with specific antibodies on top of it that are then specifically trained to kill that agent. The problem with autoimmunity is that the immune system gets dysregulated and somehow gets activated to cause attack on your own cells. The question is, why does that happen? And the answer I have alluded to. It has to do with functional medicine and the host of insults that have occurred to injure and trigger and hyper-stimulate the immune system, and then based on your genetics, sooner or later, you'll break out in disease. This is a scientific slide of mine showing that this particular trigger will stimulate parts of the immune system. Now, the surprise is that stem cells, as I mentioned, communicate with the immune system, and they suppress this trigger so that we are not as likely to develop autoimmunity. We're not as likely to develop those T cells and B cells, part of the immune system, to attack your own body. Here are several diseases that we have been successful in treating in modulating the immune system. Graft versus host, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, and rheumatoid arthritis. I'm not saying that we have cures for these. I'm saying that we have a means of moderating the immune system. The fact is that these stem cells interact with all these parts of the immune system. B cells, which produce antibodies, CD8 cells, which are T lymphocytes that are cytotoxic, that attack the body, that can attack the body, and so many other cells. They also increase the production of T regulatory cells, which help to suppress the immune system. So I don't intend for you to understand all of that. I'm just saying that stem cells have a great response in a variety of ways on the immune system, helping to re-regulate, to rebalance the immune system that somehow got out of balance because of all of the insults that I described. So, that concludes my comments today. I hope that inspires you to look inside your health. You can begin by looking at your diet. You can begin by just taking some steps to become healthier. And all of those do affect your likelihood of coming down with all of these awful things that I talked about. If you do have some of those conditions or have other questions, I hold free consultations where I talk to you about your problems. We can do this in person. I have offices in North Dallas, or I can do it by phone, especially if you're long distance. My number, 972-658-0928. You can find more information on Evolution Medicine Dallas. That's evolutionmedicinedallas.com. And you certainly can search my name, Dr. John Roland. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you and meet you soon.